Time to break down the latest college football commitments and break down the biggest games in college football coming up this weekend. Notre Dame hosts USC. We've got LSU on the road at Vandy and more. It is time for some college football.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team is every day here, and so is Game Time. If you want to get tickets at a better price without all the fluff, Game Time is the place for you. You can see the actual seat you're going to use with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. And today we got three commitments to talk about before we break down some of the situation with the hot seat, because some of the games this weekend may dictate who does and who does not get fired. We're going to talk about that. And then just a plethora of great games in college football. One of the best rivalries, USC plays at Notre Dame. We've got an unusual SEC rivalry that I want to talk quite a bit about. LSU going to Vanderbilt. Normally that's a game I would avoid altogether. Arkansas, they fired their coach. But could they have a say in what goes on coming up here? Yeah, there's some important stuff to talk about with them. South Carolina hasn't been all that impressive, but they host Oklahoma. If the Sooners lose two in a row, is Venables back on the hot seat? There are a lot of different things to talk about across this. And as always, because I discuss roster management in every possible way, shape, and form, recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal, that'll be mixed in throughout the show. But first off, a few commitments to discuss. There are three that I want to talk about. First one, Brody Jones, a kid out of, ironically, Fayetteville, Arkansas, is going to Missouri. This is ironic because Missouri and Arkansas are massive rivals. And of course, Fayetteville is where the University of Arkansas is. Brody Jones is a safety, 6'3", 375 pounds, out of Fayetteville High School. That's rough. But Arkansas just fired their coach. They're at the bottom of the Southeastern Conference, and Missouri is a team that's got a chance to make the college football playoff. As they say, to the victor goes the spoils. Landry Breed, or Brede, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, out of Mentor, Ohio, northern part of the state up near Cleveland, offensive tackle, 6'5", 280, staying home. He's going to play for the Ohio State Buckeyes. This is a kid I haven't had a chance to see yet, but if there's one thing I know about Ohio State staff, they do an absolutely tremendous job of evaluating not only talent, but fit for their program. If you look at the best college football overall team chemistry with teams that recruit nationally, you could argue that Ohio State does a better job than anybody else under the direction of Ryan Day. They are certainly in that conversation. This is another kid that they've got a chance to develop, and they've got a few of them on the offensive line right now. Their offensive tackles, some of those guys have moved around, some play guard, etc. They figure it out after they get these young men on campus. Hats off to everybody at Ohio State for that. Good luck to Landry up in Columbus. And then, I love this. Southern Cal picks up a junior college commitment. They need defensive back help. They don't have the greatest secondary in the world right now, so they go out and get a JUCO. Jaquan Morris out of Northwestern Mississippi Community College, cornerback, 6 foot, 170 pounds. You're going to get a guy that's got some college experience. It's kind of like getting a player from the portal, and he's going to get an extra year of eligibility. You only get like 1 year taken against you with the new ruling. It's what I call the Diego Pavia rule, the quarterback at Vandy. So this kid's going to play 2 or 3 years for you. He's got a little bit of experience. Good pickup for USC. Now, before I dive into all the different breakdowns and all the different things that I think are going to happen this weekend, I'm going to talk a lot about the quarterbacks, got a whole bunch of stats. Note that this is also coaches get fired weekend, but not necessarily in a formal sense. Here's what I mean. We're going to have 2 or 3 games minimum that are going to at least put coaches, A, either back on the hot seat, or B, maybe push them over the edge. Like, not trying to be mean here, but if somehow Mississippi State wins in the Swamp, that's not going to go over very well with the Bull Gator Club and UF, nor should it. To that end, looking at this list, Missouri plays at Auburn. Missouri's pretty good, but they just got beat up in a physical contest against Alabama. They almost won, but they took some licks. But Auburn's been through a tough stretch as well. They just played Georgia. Well, somebody's got to win. Is Auburn finally going to get a little better officiating in one of their games? And B, are they going to find a way to throw the football when they have to? Their offense was so anemic in the second half against Missouri. The fans are about ready to revolt. Like, I live in Auburn. The fans are not happy. If they don't beat Missouri, will the administration pull the plug on Hugh Freeze? I could see it. I'm not saying that it's a lock, but I can see it. And then finally, this one is awkward in every possible way you can imagine. Florida State has lost 3 in a row. They are 1-10 going back to last season in their last 11 ACC games. And the only victory they had was against Cal when Cal screwed up twice in the red zone against Florida State in the second half of that game. Or the Noles wouldn't have even won a game against an FBS team last year. They're bad enough as it is. But they're 0-3 in the ACC this year. You're playing on the road at 10:30 Eastern time. Good luck with that. That's a really late game against a team you're not going to want to play in Stanford, who's a little better than anticipated. They got a decent run defense, got a veteran quarterback that's throwing it around a little bit. If Florida State comes out and lays an egg as a 17.5-point favorite, and don't be shocked if they do, while the contract from Mike Norvell is massive, would it finally be time for the Florida State administration to pull the plug on Mike Norvell? I say yes, but I'm not the one that's fitting the bill. His contract is 50 plus. I've heard different totals, but if it's in the neighborhood of $50 million, we get the point. That's a lot. Is that a possibility? Yeah, I could see where that could go in a lot of directions that are really, really bad. But if you're Florida State, at what point are you just like, man, enough is enough? We have to at least right the ship a little bit, because if they don't, I don't know what you can do at this point. I really don't, because the fan base there is pretty apathetic. I also run Locked On Seminoles, and I can tell you that is not a good situation. It shouldn't be either, to be really honest. But come on, it's Florida State. You should be looking at 8-4 as a year that you were off, not 2-10. And this year, 8-4 might be as good as they get. They still got games at NC State. You never know. They can score at Florida, at Clemson. This game at Stanford, I'm not convinced they're going to be all that enthused to play. Tommy Castellanos is a little banged up. Deuce Robinson is out. There are a lot of different things that I don't think really favor the Noles here. But again, the big picture is about the administration. Will Florida State's administration be like, you know what, we got to get with the boosters and make this happen? Or are they going to be like, you know what, we're just going to ride this out? That's the other part of this. It's not the greatest year to change coaches because there's not a ton of candidates. And I think, I'm not positive, but I think you're going to see a scenario where Florida State and a lot of other schools, they're just going up against so many other teams for the coaches. It may not work out from that perspective either. We'll see how that goes. But when we come back, we're going to dive into the Notre Dame USC game and several others. There's a lot of great matchups this week in college football. So let's talk about that next right here on Locked on the Portal. Today's show is brought to you by Wayfair. The holidays are going to be here before you know it, which is exciting. But getting your home ready for your guests, your family, your friends, and all the celebrations that you're going to have, it can feel like a lot. Maybe you need something new, and maybe serveware. Maybe it's something for your guest room. Maybe it's a new bedding for your room, whatever it may be. Wayfair has everything you need for your home and your holidays to be ready. For Christmas trees, to wreaths, to bedding, cookware, anything else you can imagine, it's the one-stop shop for everything you need in your house. Wayfair makes it easy to personalize your home for the holidays with a huge selection for every style and budget. And they've got free and easy delivery, even on the big stuff. So if you need something for your Christmas tree, or if you just need some new pillows for the couch, Wayfair has you covered. Get organized, refreshed, and ready for the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season's rolling along, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. Get $300 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's right. If you win that first $5 bet, you'll get $300 across the FanDuel app to use at your leisure. So if it's voting for Josh Allen to win MVP, waiting for the perfect time to put down something on a money line that you want to do. Maybe it's a player prop or a parlay. FanDuel has you covered. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel right now to download the FanDuel app and to get started. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making this a part of your day. And I'm going to start doing this every week, just having fun with some live shows during the week and just talking about the big games in addition to what's going on with commitments. A lot of portal news. We're about to go crazy with the transfer portal stuff. Once these coaches start getting fired, going to have a lot of fun with it. I expect to see a whole bunch of different people get canned very soon. People aren't very patient in college football, but it is what it is. First game that I want to discuss is USC at Notre Dame. This was one of the longest rivalries in college football. It's one of the best and one of the most unique because it's a long rivalry in terms of distance. LA to South Bend is not a short trip. I can tell you that. I've made it myself. So with that in mind, a couple of stats here to kind of look at. First off, let's give this guy credit. He should be in the Heisman race 100%. If you don't have him on your short list, speaking of FanDuel, if you wanted to go look at one, it would not shock me if Jayden Maiava ended up being the Heisman winner and just like any award that's associated with offense. He's got a chance. 13 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. They're averaging 325.8 yards passing per game. And he's a guy that can beat you with his legs too. Now, I'm not going to make this the Jayden Maiava show, but he is legit. And to that end, here's the other part. If you have not watched Mekhi Lemon, holy cow, is that guy a great receiver. He's not just good. He's as good a route runner in 50-50 ball guy, including Jeremiah Smith, in all of college football. I love watching Mekhi Lemon. Give him props. I hope, and I don't know what Notre Dame will do, I hope they take Leonard Moore, who's arguably the best pure man coverage guy in college football, and just have him follow Mekhi Lemon around. Both of them are going to make plays. But that would be awesome, especially if you get some all-22 film to watch, get some people from the stands that took some video from the end zones in Notre Dame State. That could be just spectacular. That's as good a matchup as there is in college football. But here are some of the just raw numbers to discuss that I think are also interesting. Let's talk a little run game, if you will. The defenses for both these teams, they're pretty good against the run, almost identical statistically, actually. USC's rushing defense for the year, 108.5 yards per game allowed. That's 29th. Against just teams in the Power 4, 111 yards, almost identical. The only game they didn't do as well was one was kind of surprising because they hadn't run the ball that well yet prior to that game. When they played at Illinois, they gave up 171. If Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, CJ Carr, and anybody else that runs the ball has a big game, or even just one extra big play, a 50-yarder or something, that could be the difference. And if Notre Dame runs for 170-plus yards, USC's probably in trouble. But USC's defense really did a great job, especially in the second half against Michigan last week. Maybe they've kind of climbed that mountain. They looked pretty darn good to me, and that's probably the best game defensively that I've seen USC have since Lincoln Riley's been in L.A. I think it's a possibility they could give Notre Dame some trouble up front. The guy that I want you to focus on when that game's on, if you're going to watch it, Devin Tompkins. He's over 290. He's a big defensive tackle. He's had some big plays this year. If he has a good game, and Notre Dame's starting center is out for the year. He injured his left knee. I think it's an ACL. Good luck to him with his recovery, but that's a big question mark. USC's defensive tackles are a lot better this year. For Notre Dame, their rush defense, 106.2, that's 25th. And against teams that are in the Power 5, or Power 4 now, 107.4. So they've been very consistent. They also held Hollywood Smothers, the really talented running back from NC State last week, 12 carries, 46 yards, no touchdowns. And they held NC State to just 51 yards. So both these rush defenses are trending in the right place. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. Notre Dame's favored by 9 or something like that. That might be too much, and maybe it's not. That's up to you to decide. But this is a really interesting matchup. The other thing I do want to mention, I would be remiss if I didn't discuss at least CJ Carr for a moment. 313 yards per game for the Irish through the air. Carr has 13 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. He's a redshirt freshman. He's just slowly building. The last couple of weeks, he's missed a few throws here or there, But overall, he's one of the most accurate guys in college football. I would say the young man at Alabama is the most accurate, and he can throw it all over the wide. Malachi Fields, I don't think he's Jayden Maiava's favorite target. I don't think he's Makai Lemon, but he's a guy that's 6'4", 220. He could give USC some problems. They got one corner that's pretty good, and the other one's a little iffy. We'll see how that goes. And watch out for anybody on the other side, because Malachi's probably going to need to get a little extra attention. They've got some guys. Faison, I think, is tremendous. He's probably got the best fit right now in that confidence with CJ Carr, but however they do it, Carr's thrown it well. And last week, Eli Raritan had over 100 yards. I think it's the first time he'd ever been over 100 for the Irish. He's a future NFL tight end, so that's a well-balanced group. And, of course, you got Love and Price in the backfield. I like Notre Dame to win, but this game could go either way. And if USC comes out and plays good run defense, I think that game could absolutely be a victory for USC. Notre Dame can't turn it over and can't squander opportunities. The last couple of weeks, the Irish have had some really weird third and shorts, fourth and shorts, like play calls, formations. They don't fix that, USC will win that game. Let's just kind of run down some of the other key games here. And again, one of my big themes, coaches getting fired. So don't screw up. I'll talk about some of the big games overall, but one of the games that I think could really be interesting is Mississippi State at Florida. You're probably thinking, oh, come on. Billy Napier has not shown that his team gets up for all the games. They got up for Texas, but will they get up for Mississippi State? That's a helmet game. That's what I call it. Is he going to do that? We're going to talk about that next, right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. It's where I get my tickets, and to be honest, that's where you should too. With college football being back, I couldn't be more excited about all the fun it is to go to games, tailgates, rivalries, and everything that goes on in the stands. There's not quite like it, but getting tickets with all the endless queues and some of those ridiculous prices, because they're not the same that you see at the front that you do at the end at the checkout, that's not much fun. And that's why I use Game Time, and you should as well. It's the app where you, the fan, get the opportunity to have the advantage again. So with Game Time, the price you're going to see after you download the app on your phone or your tablet, that's the price you get at the end too. Secondarily, the best part, if you click on a seat, you can see your seat view right there from, again, your phone or your tablet. No problems at all. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. All right, let's break down this Florida game with Mississippi State. 2 points here. Number one, it's not a secret that Billy Napier is struggle busing in terms of consistency. Like, he's been very inconsistent at UF the whole time. But do not discount Mississippi State, who, to be honest, I don't know 3 players on that roster, but Blake Shapen is one of them. He's a pretty good player. They're not great at throwing the ball, 211.2 yards a game, 198.7 against Power 4 opponents. But Blake Shapen's a veteran. He's the guy that came over from Baylor a couple of years ago. 9 TDs, 4 interceptions. It's not bad. If you screw around in that first quarter and you're the Gators that are kind of sleeping through that ball game, and let me see, when's the kickoff for this game? This ball game, if it's early, that could be a problem too. I don't think that I didn't write this one down as far as the kickoff time. Well, anyway, Florida, I don't trust them if they were playing in the Chancellor's backyard in this game. I really don't. I think it'll be a difficult time to get them motivated because there's no nice way to say it. They don't respect Mississippi State. It's a helmet game. Sam, what's going on, brother? Thank you very much. Yeah, I don't trust them at all. I love Jayden Ball. DJ Lagway's a pretty good player, but here's the stat. I'm glad I looked this up. I wasn't aware it was this bad, but I forgot about the LSU game. DJ Lagway, 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. 5 came against LSU, which got a great secondary. But good Lord, 227 per game. That's 71st in the nation, by the way. Mississippi State's only 91st. So the passing game in this ball game could be iffy. Lagway's only throwing for 222.8 against Power 4 opponents. Do we trust Florida to go out there and just straight up win this game? I do not. Wouldn't surprise me. But here's my question. if Lagway and the Gators don't get it done, however it goes, maybe the offense sways it, I have no idea. Would they fire Billy Napier right away? Would they? I'm not convinced that they would, but they got the Georgia game coming up in a few weeks. They have a bye before that. As a rule, head coaches get fired during bye weeks if you're going to do it during the season. I could see that. But if they lose to Mississippi State, that could be a different story. Now, they might go out there and just clobber the Bulldogs. They might beat them 31-10. Florida's defense is pretty darn good. But they started to give way at the end of the A&M game because the offense got bogged down again. A&M lost their best running back last week, and Le'Veon Moss, who I think is a future NFL player. And honestly, not trying to be mean, but that's a scenario where if things start to go south in this game with the offense, is the defense finally going to just start pointing fingers? Because they played really hard this year. That's my concern with UF. I don't even know what the line is, but this is one of those games where it's a helmet game, and I do not trust the Gators at all. Not even remotely. Let's talk about LSU and Vanderbilt. This is another game that's a helmet game. LSU just throttles Vanderbilt, like most teams in the SEC most years. But most of the time, Vanderbilt doesn't have Diego Pavia. They lost a couple weeks ago in a close game to Alabama, and at the end, Bama pulled away. Pavia didn't play as well as possible. For the year, he's still at 14 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. But against P4 competition, Vandy's only throwing for 201 a game. Overall, 258.8, 47th in the nation. Almost identical, ironically, to LSU, 258.5 per game. That's 48th. 229.8 against Power 4 competition. Nussmeier, this is a little disappointing. 9 TDs, 5 interceptions. A preseason Heisman contender, some even might say favorite. He's not even in the stratosphere. Their biggest problems are offensive line. They lost 4 guys to the NFL. That is no bueno. No bueno. But it is what it is. You're not very good up front, and it's hurt their run game. Cade Dunham is a really talented player. Harlan Berry, the freshman, is maybe even better. But there aren't a lot of rush lanes. They're getting a little bit better. They're getting some more chemistry. But they got Weston Davis and some other guys that have been in the lineup. They're green. Are they going to be able to handle a pretty darn good front for Vanderbilt? I'm not sure they will do super well, but I'll tell you one thing. I can't believe I'm saying this after last year, but I trust LSU's secondary. All the money they spent buying guys out of the portal and to get them to go in the portal. I would imagine that Pavia is going to throw at least one pass in this game that he's going to wish that he had a chance to get back. I've got LSU winning this game 23-14. I have no idea what the line is. I'm not a guy that puts down money on games, but I think it'll be an ugly game. But the key, I like LSU to make one more defensive play because I think their secondary has enough NFL talent that they'll get over the top. It'll be an ugly game, and I think Vanderbilt Clark Leach and his staff have done a tremendous job. Tremendous. They don't have enough firepower outside the numbers on offense against LSU secondary. I think that will be the difference in this ball game. Oklahoma at South Carolina. This is the other game. By the way, if LSU loses to Vandy, it gets a little dicey for Brian Kelly. I don't think that would be the end all be all, but that would trend it in the wrong direction. But speak of trending in the wrong direction, 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. What quarterback am I talking about? Give me a hint. He was a Heisman favorite a few weeks ago, and his team was ranked in the top 10 until they laid an egg last week offensively. Who am I talking about? John Mateer. 3 picks against Texas, and they have a great defense. That staff does a tremendous job. But he's going against Lenore Sellers in Columbia, one of the craziest places in college football. Sellers hasn't exactly lit it up. The receivers there, a little iffy. 4 TDs, 2 interceptions. They didn't even have a passing touchdown last week at LSU. They ate them alive. South Carolina is only averaging 194.7 yards passing per game. 208, ironically, a little higher against P4 competition. Whereas Oklahoma's 266.7. So they're 35th compared to South Carolina being 100th in the nation. 250.3 against P4 comp. So they've thrown it around a little bit. But teams that can play some zone and mix it up, and that's something Texas does, that gave Mateer fits. And I'm not saying South Carolina's defense is Texas. But I expect this game to come down to the wire. And if Oklahoma loses this game, they got a gauntlet still ahead. They still got to play LSU later this season. They've got A&M. This is going to get dicey. This is going to get dicey. Don't think for a second that Brent Venables is off the hot seat just because they had a good start. He needs to win minimum 9 games. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Mateer's got another year of eligibility. He probably needs it. He's not seeing the field very well. And, of course, to be fair, Mateer's banged up. It's very obvious that hand was bothering him. He wasn't on time either, but like some of his throws just weren't quite as accurate as they needed. And Arch Manning outplayed him. If Texas does that, there's your blueprint again. Does everybody have the same secondary talent that OU does? No. Do they have the D tackles OU does? Or, excuse me, Texas? No. But at the same time, South Carolina's defense isn't chopped liver. This is another one of those games. If Oklahoma does not start well, if they do not start well, you're playing at a place where those fans are bonkers. Bonkers. It could be a very difficult situation coming out of that press conference. If you get an L at South Carolina looking ahead, the only wild card here that might help Venables, the AD, if I remember correctly, at Oklahoma is walking away from the sport. He's retiring. You usually want to have your AD in place to do a coaching search, and this is not a good year for the coach to be hired at any school. There's just going to be so many openings, obviously, Penn State, etc. But do not rule it out. It could happen. Continuing on down the list, here's one I don't think will happen, but this is just college football in a nutshell. Texas A&M plays at Arkansas. Arkansas fired their coach, but they went to Tennessee last week and came within a hair of beating the Vols. The Vols don't do real well on some third downs. They've had injuries at corner, just bad luck. They've got a pretty good pass rush, but they still don't do great with stopping the pass. That's not a good sign. Your secondary is not getting it done. Some of the young guys are kind of thrown into the fire. It is what it is. I'm not sure because Arkansas can throw it. Taylor Green's legit. If this is one of those sleepy games where A&M doesn't take it serious, and Elko's good coach, I'm sure he's preaching against that. It's another one of those contests, that first quarter, that first 5 to 7 minutes. If you give a team that has nothing to lose, they already fired their coach. You give them a little bit of hope. Is it possible? Sure. Here are the numbers so far this year offensively for Taylor Green and the offense for Arkansas. Per game passing, they're 18th in the nation. 293.3, and against P4, 280.5. Green, although he's been running for his life quite a bit, I don't think their offensive line's that great. In pass pro, 14 TDs, just 5 interceptions. That's pretty good. Could you imagine what he would do if he played for a team that had a better defense and he could get the ball back quicker? I mean, he's going to make an NFL roster. I'm very convinced of that. Somebody's going to work with him, and the head coach, you may not like at Arkansas, but he knows quarterbacks. That could be interesting. Conversely, they're 18th in nation passing. A&M, Marcel Reed, 12 TDs, 4 interceptions. A&M's 265.2. Remember, they killed Notre Dame. They threw for 360, but they haven't had anything like that since. And against P4 competition, even with the game against Notre Dame in South Bend, they're only throwing for 207 a game. Teams that can run zone, which is predominantly what you're going to see from Arkansas, they've given him some problem. Now, Arkansas secondary is terrible. But even if there's just one play, if it happens early, is it out of the question? That game could at least be interesting? No. They almost won at Tennessee. Maybe that's the thing that will help A&M. Seeing that score, like if Tennessee would have won 34-13, that wouldn't have been good for A&M. But they won 34-31. You screw around with Arkansas, they've gotten some mojo back offensively, at least. Defensively, I just don't think they got enough. Maybe Taylor Green, he gets the ball last. They got a chance with a minute to go. They're on their own 20. They got to score a touchdown. Not likely. I could see something like that becoming the scenario, though. Does A&M come out and kick butt? Run the ball? I would run the ball and try to keep Taylor Green on the sideline if I was Elko. Even though Le'Veon Moss, he's probably out for the majority of the season. He's got some kind of lower leg injury. I would tell Mr. Reuben Owens, who's also a very gifted running back, today is your day, buddy. You're going to get 15 to 18 carries. We're going to throw you a couple passes. Today is your day. That's what I would do. And Marcel might get an extra carry or two as well. Keep the clock rolling. You've got a good defense who's improving. Like they were terrible against Notre Dame. They've improved vastly. I think they could blow them out, or this game could come down to the end. This is probably the hardest game for me to pick because I trust Elko as a coach. But I do not trust 18 to 22-year-olds being excited about playing Arkansas on the road at all. Like not even remotely. It's a 3:30 ESPN game. So at least it's not a noon kick. That's the good thing. But at the same time, are they going to be excited to play Arkansas? If they screw around, that's another one of those games that are going to get really, really iffy. Let's talk a little bit about Missouri and Auburn. I didn't even write down the stats with this. I'm just going to make this very simple. Ahmad Hardy is unbelievable for Mizzou. Love watching him. He's averaging over 4 yards after contact. That is an NFL running back if there is. I'm a huge Jeremiah Love guy, but this year Ahmad Hardy's been the best running back that I've seen in terms of every down, getting it done. And Mizzou doesn't have the same overall group of receivers and tight ends that Notre Dame had. I think it's pretty good, but everybody knows Hardy's the guy. He is absolutely the guy, and he's taken on the challenge. He's averaging more yards per carry after contact than either Jadarian Price, Jeremiah Love, and just about anybody else in college football. Pick a running back. There's a lot of good ones. But Mizzou's going to play Auburn. They've had every possible thing go against them as a defense. Their offense stinks. The referees hate Auburn. I think that's pretty clear. And Hugh Freeze isn't helping the offense very much. But that defense has played lights out. Oklahoma game, they were good. The A&M game, they were good. And the Georgia game, they were good. At some point, if they just get, maybe it's a scoop and score, maybe it's a kickoff return for a touchdown, maybe it's a run. That one thing Jackson Arnold definitely does well is run the football. If Auburn gets a lead early, Missouri's passing offense, Bo Prabula was very mediocre in the pass game against Bama. But that's a really good defense. Really good defense. Auburn's isn't much different, though. It's legit. Their back seven can run. They can really run. They got some young guys mixed in with some older players. Kane Lee and a bunch of other players in the secondary have a shot to play on Sundays. If Missouri screws around and doesn't give Hardy the ball enough early, and you let Auburn hang around, they got nothing to lose either. Their coach probably on his way out. If they lose this game, maybe they rally for Hugh Freeze. Again, this is coaches get fired weekend. That's what this is going to be. If you screw around, there's going to be some coaches get canned. Hugh Freeze is on that teeter-totter point too. And I'm hearing some dissension in the ranks. Players planning to leave. So it can go one of two ways. The Missouri Tigers can come in and play great in the first quarter. Maybe Auburn quits. It's possible. Or secondarily, I've been in Jordan-Hare a number of times. That place is electric when they get a lead. They love the Auburn Tigers. If they play well in that first quarter, and maybe Jackson Arnold actually makes some good reads and throws the ball on time, that's been a big question, then this game can go down to the wire. Because Auburn could end up being a 6-6 team that Missouri loses to. Auburn's competitive with everybody. Can they get the ball to Cam Coleman, please? Just a little personal request. I want to see Cam Coleman have an opportunity. That would be nice. But I'm going to pick Missouri, but I would not be surprised at all. I think FanDuel had them a 1.5-point favorite I saw yesterday. It would not be surprising at all to me if that ended up being a game that Missouri lost. Wouldn't surprise me in the least. Also, very interesting game here that's not going to get any attention, and it's a sleepy noon kick, but a very important game in the ACC. Georgia Tech at Duke is an ESPN game at noon. If Duke wins, Gary Mensah going against Haynes King, that's a heck of a – that'll probably be the noon game that I watch. I mean, there are some other good noon games, but Washington at Michigan's another one. It's on Fox at noon, big noon kickoff. But the Georgia Tech at Duke game ought to be fun. Haynes King, one of the most underrated players in college football by a million miles. I don't think there's any doubt that Haynes King is undervalued because he's not throwing it around the way some of these other guys do. But is there a better fourth down runner than him over the last 2 years? Him and Riley Leonard last year, but he's back. Riley's not. over a 2-year period, give me Haynes King. Duke's got a really good situation in terms of the right coach for the right fit there. But their defense isn't quite as good as what it's been. This could be a game that ends up in the 30s. This could be one of the most entertaining games. I'm curious to see what happens. I'm very interested. Duke wins that game. That might be the only loss that Georgia Tech gets until they play. I don't think they'll beat Georgia, but they could be 11-0 going into that game. If they do beat Duke, Miami versus Georgia Tech's pretty close to a lock for the ACC title game. So again, that's a noon kickoff on ESPN. The A&M Arkansas game, I'll just go through the times and the channels here. That's 3:30 ESPN. We got Mississippi State at Florida. There it is. I knew I found that somewhere. That game's 4:15 on SEC Network. These are all Eastern time. Penn State at Iowa. Nobody's going to watch it because it's on that stupid Peacock app that I refuse to get. But Penn State at Iowa, 7 o'clock in the evening. Tennessee at Bama. Didn't really cover this one that much. I don't think Tennessee, with their DBs being banged up, they don't have a chance against Ty Simpson in Alabama. On the road, I think that's a 2-touchdown game, but Tennessee's a pretty good team. They don't have the defense this year in the secondary. Mizzou at Auburn, 7:45 in the evening on SEC Network, which is obviously a part of ESPN. The Holy War. I don't know enough about this game to cover it, but for those that get to, this is always one of my favorite games of the year. Utah at BYU, 8 o'clock on Fox. That's going to be awesome. Again, I've mentioned this earlier. Florida State at Stanford, 10:30 at night. This is terrible for Florida State. ESPN game. Will Florida State show up for that game? They're 17.5-point favorite. Not so sure. NBC 7:30 game is the Notre Dame USC contest. Vandy, noon kickoff, hosting LSU. Again, I got 23-14 Tigers, but that'll be interesting. And then the other game that I haven't covered, I need to learn more about. Why in the world? I want to go and do a show with Stephen Willis tomorrow in a crossover of Locked on the Portal and Locked on Ole Miss. What in the world happened last week with Ole Miss? I refuse to really cover it yet. I need to talk to him first. But Ole Miss goes to Georgia. They almost got beat by Wazoo at home. You talk about looking past your opponent. I'm not touching that game until I know. But it's Ole Miss at Georgia is probably the best 3:30 game in my opinion. It's on ABC. I'm just for fun, I'm just going to go ahead and throw out a score here. 27-21 Georgia. But did Ole Miss look past it so much and work so much towards playing Georgia this past week? They almost screwed up against Wazoo. Wouldn't surprise me with Kiffin. Never know. So that's the slate of games. I think it's just a fantastic week. And I also think there's a lot of stuff going to happen. Again, I've said throughout the show, this is get fired weekend. You screw around, either you get fired this weekend or soon thereafter. Like if Napier loses Mississippi State, maybe they don't fire him this week. Maybe it comes in a couple weeks before they play Georgia. You're going to see some of that. Have I talked about Toodle's flip? I have not heard anything about that. Maybe he did. If he didn't, I don't know. I have not heard. Let's go Irish from Josh Buffo, the motivated Bustress Barker. Okay. And we got 3 PSU decommits. Hopefully they come to the Irish soon. By the way, yeah, I've talked about this extensively. Good Lord. Penn State is bleeding commitments. 27 kids, 26 kids. That's going to get ugly. If anybody has any recruiting questions that are in the chat, fire away. I'm going to start doing these live shows as consistently as I can, at least a couple a week. Just depends on how many kids commit because I like starting the recruiting blitz with that. And then you just talk about the games, the portal, who's getting fired and whatnot. But it's a lot of fun. So with that, I don't think we got anybody else. But again, I'm going to start doing these pretty consistently. I enjoy it. I enjoy talking about all the different players that are going into the games, the quarterbacks and everything. It's a lot of fun. So thank you very much for joining with me today here on the Portal Podcast. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to have more breakdowns of different games. Wisconsin situation. I've got a pod coming up about that. Their coaching situation is dire. I'm not sure if Wisconsin's going to win another game. It's pretty crazy right now in college football. So let's all enjoy it. Everybody have a great one. I'll talk to you soon.